Welcome to another Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking a really captivating tech mystery, one that tracks the hidden digital DNA of the software powering our elections. Because, here's the crazy thing about software. It rarely just disappears. It gets acquired, it gets rebranded, and it gets absorbed into entirely new systems. So we're going to trace a pretty fascinating lineage today, watching how a single piece of election software evolved, changed hands, and morphed through various corporate shells, completely scrubbing its original identity along the way. It is literally a journey into the invisible supply chain of democracy.
So, where does your election software actually come from? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer is incredibly complex, and it matters immensely because ultimately, the integrity of the vote relies entirely on the integrity of the code. If you cast a ballot online, especially if you're an overseas or military voter, the software processing that vote has a very long, very hidden history. Today, we're following the investigative trail of one specific voting platform to understand exactly how legacy code persists, even when the original brand names vanish completely.
All right, let's dive into this. To really understand this software's journey, we have to start with the massive market need that birthed it in the first place. Back in 2009, the federal government passed the MOVE Act. This officially mandated that jurisdictions had to provide electronic methods for UOCAVA voters, so military personnel deployed abroad and citizens living overseas, to request and receive their absentee ballots. Overnight, this put unprecedented pressure on local governments. They suddenly desperately needed secure, compliant digital solutions, and tech companies rushed right in to build them.
Section 1. Origins of AB Vote.
Our story kicks off in East Lansing, Michigan, with a small company called Konnech Inc., founded by Eugene Yu. Now, Konnech initially focused on the kind of unglamorous side of election logistics, building a platform called Poll Chief just to manage poll workers. But seeing this massive, lucrative opportunity created by the MOVE Act, they pivoted and developed a new platform called AB Vote. What is absolutely crucial here is that Yu didn't just write code. He secured key patents. Specifically, U.S. Patent 836-9660 for managing absentee voting and electronic ballot return. This patent wasn't just some plaque on a wall. It was the foundational digital architecture for remote voting. It was an incredibly valuable asset, and it very quickly caught the eye of some much bigger players.
Section 2. The Votem Acquisition. Jump to early 2016, and a Cleveland-based startup named Votem Corp makes a highly strategic move. They swoop in and acquire 100% of Konnech's North American AV vote business. By doing this, Votem didn't just buy the underlying code, they bought immediate market dominance, absorbing active contracts in major areas like Montana, Washington, D.C., and Detroit. But here is the critical detail you can't miss. Eugene Yu didn't just hand over the keys and walk away. Not at all. He remained on Votem's board of advisors for another 5 years, all the way until early 2021. This ensured vital technical continuity and allowed the original architect to maintain significant ongoing influence over the UOSCAV voting pipeline long after the software actually changed hands. Section 3. Becoming cast iron.
So as Votem absorbed this technology, a pretty intense corporate scrubbing began. Votem wanted a sleek, futuristic brand to sell to state governments, right? So the highly functional but kind of plain AB Vote name was completely erased. Instead, Votem took that original AB Vote DNA and wrapped it into what they called their cast iron platform. They dressed it up with some serious buzzwords, adding a proof-of-vote blockchain to track ballots, integrating AI for fraud detection, and deploying moving target defense, which is this wild cybersecurity tactic that constantly scrambles code so hackers can't lock onto it. The AB Vote name was scrubbed entirely, but make no mistake, its foundational codebase was the exact engine running cast iron.
Armed with this newly integrated, ultra-modern platform, Votem went on the offensive, aggressively pitching to state governments. Just look at the language on this proposal cover for the state of West Virginia. Votem pitched cast iron as election compliance as a service. It was a brilliant marketing spin. They literally took the basic logistical solutions originally built by Konnech and sold them as an uncrackable, all-in-one futuristic service to local municipalities that were just desperate for security solutions.
So we see Votem growing rapidly. But honestly, it becomes a classic tech narrative of hubris. In 2016, they acquire AB Vote. By 2018, hungry for absolute market dominance, they decide to buy another major voting company called Everyone Counts. They absorb their software and secure a massive UOCAVA contract in Alabama. They were trying to basically buy the entire market outright. But as you might guess, this rapid expansion required immense capital,
creating a totally unsustainable cash burn. By early 2019, that aggressive growth strategy hit a solid brick wall, and the company plunged straight into a severe liquidity crisis.
Section 4. The Noink divestiture.
That financial crash forced an immediate reckoning. On February 15, 2019, Votem had to lay off the vast majority of its staff. To simply survive, they had to carve up the company and sell off the pieces. They totally split the technology. Votem kept the cast-iron platform specifically to maintain those USCVA remote voting contracts in states like Montana and Alabama. However, they sold the lucrative voter registration business they had just acquired to a company called Noink. Now, this was a massive shift. Noink already dominated the electronic poll book market with their physical poll pad hardware. So by acquiring Votem's registration assets, Noink essentially gained a monopoly in certain jurisdictions, controlling both the underlying voter rolls and the actual hardware sitting on the desk on Election Day.
Section 5. The Legacy of Eugene Yu.
All right, our story ultimately circles back to the original architect of the code, Eugene Yu. And the source materials here present a very stark contrast between some wild accusations and the documented truths. An organization called True the Vote accused Yu of having ties to the Chinese Communist Party, alleging he stored 1.8 million U.S. poll worker records on an unsecured server in Wuhan. However, our sources clearly detail the reality. Yu is a U.S. citizen who naturalized and relinquished his Chinese citizenship way back in 1997. Konnech is entirely U.S.-owned. The Los Angeles District Attorney completely dismissed the charges against Yu, acknowledging they stemmed from a flawed tip, and Yu actually received a $5 million settlement. But, and this is where we really need to focus, our sources also include a 2025 Defense Intelligence Note. This note proves that regardless of the lawsuits or the partisan politics, the U.S. intelligence community views this invisible web of legacy software as a genuine, ongoing vulnerability. It highlights that these legacy supply chains require constant scrutiny, no matter whose name is currently on the corporate letterhead.
Look at the sheer volume of network subdomains linked to the original poll chief system right here. This perfectly illustrates the reality of modern software architecture. The AB Vote name was intentionally scrubbed for marketing. The original company's assets were broken up, rebranded as cast iron, and spun off to entities like Noink. But that foundational digital footprint? It persists. The digital DNA remains stubbornly embedded. The architecture developed years ago in Michigan remains a core component in the digital infrastructure of modern elections all across the country.
Which leaves us with this final, vital question. As we've seen today, election software isn't just written once. It gets acquired, rebranded, merged, and inherited over and over. If the digital DNA of Abe Vote still beats inside systems used today, how do we track the true origins of the code powering our democracy? It's an incredibly complex, totally invisible supply chain, and the screen you tap on Election Day has a deep history that is completely hidden from public view. Understanding that history, though, is the crucial first step to truly securing it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helped make a highly complex topic just a little bit more transparent.